Welcome to the Business Agility Boost. It's already February, and I hope you all had a great start of the year. If you like, then let us know in the chat who you are and where you come from. We are broadcasting from the Netherlands, so it's 12 o'clock, lunchtime. So maybe if you are also from Europe, you also have some lunch, or maybe you are drinking coffee and it's early morning. Maybe it's already later. Let us know where you come from. Our topic today is strategy, a topic that is on top of mind as the year started and the goals are set, right? But did you know that 85% of organizations do not actively implement a strategy? And only 29% respondents of a research by the Conference Board states that our organization is actively involved in strategic workforce planning. Now, what does this tell us? So there is a wealth of opportunities to improve, to boost, and to activate your strategy. Avoid flying blind and align people in the organization with your business strategy. I am Elise Hofmeester, founder of Twingster, and it's my purpose to humanize business and create spaces where everyone is able to thrive. We support organizations in creating such spaces with our consultancy, our academy, and amongst others, sharing knowledge and case studies in the field of transformation and change. Now, who of you wants to learn more about activating your strategy and how a people strategy make change happen? Share your answers and your questions in the chat during the entire Business Agility Boost today and join the conversation. And today, we have a special guest, and I'm very excited she is here today. Leonie Lubbers, founder of Be Future Ready, a pragmatic people and culture strategy. So let's invite Leonie to the stage.
Hey, Elise.
Hi, Leonie.
Hi, everyone. Also dialing in from the Netherlands. So,
Oh, cool.
great.
And I can give an introduction of you, but maybe you can also give a bit of an introduction of yourself, because you and I know each other already, I think, from the beginning of 2017, right?
Yes, I came back in 2017 from Manila, where I spent a year working for ING at that time. And it was a very dynamic environment. We grew from 250 to 500 people. And when I came back to the Netherlands, I wanted another dynamic environment and challenge. And that's indeed where we met Alice, and we both were part of the global transformation team, helping other countries to transform their way of working into an agile way of working. So my background a little bit, I was a manager in the business, moved to HR, worked a lot in transformation, and I was a former chief people officer of Logex, which is a company in a different industry. And so yeah, that's a little bit about me. And I'm
Yeah.
the founder of Be Future Ready, like you already said. So I'm supporting companies to align their people strategy to the business strategy in the end to achieve the business goals.
Yeah, cool. And I really like your one-liner, which you have on your site, and what really also makes a bit of your purpose, I think, right?
Yeah, it's really challenging people and organizations
Mhm.
to act today for a better tomorrow. And so we can have like perfect plans, but if we don't do anything today, we don't make it better tomorrow. And I think that's also really good aligned to your business agility, and making things happen. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, yeah. And but before we dive into the more details, because we are often used to do that,
Yeah.
really dive into the topic. Our life is full of choices. So after working on your impressive transformation, you had the choice to step into a new opportunity, either in a large corporate again. in an agile transformation, or to become HR director of a startup, or better, a skill up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you choose the latter.
Yeah.
It was, of course, easy to go into the same, but can you explain a bit why you made this choice?
Yeah, although I worked for ING, which is a corporate, I always made the choices to work in those areas or those countries. I also, besides the Philippines, I also worked in Spain and Australia. In those areas where there was a lot of growth, a lot of things going on, a lot of change, a lot of transformation. And I thought with that background and understanding the business, being a manager in the business or a leader myself, understanding people and culture and understanding change and transformation, I thought this is a great experience to bring to another company. And in this case, I really was looking for a company that was completely different in a different industry than the financial sector. So in this case, a company that analyzed data in the healthcare sector. And yeah, there were also some things within ING where I thought, hey, I think we can do this better. And as a chief people officer, that gave me the opportunity to see if I was right, yes or no. So with all the experience, yeah, I could. I thought I could really add value, and I did within Logix. Yeah.
Yeah. We are looking forward to hear a bit more about that. But what I am also curious about, in the intro, I refer to a research that 85% of organizations do not have an active strategy. And on top of that, a strategic workforce planning is almost created in a silo. And from my personal experience, I regularly observe that after the presentation of the company strategy and the plans, sharing the plans with the people in the organization, they return to their department or to the team and continue the usual work. It sometimes seems like that after the presentation with big PowerPoints, the strategy ends up in a kind of drawer and disappears from view. What is your take on this?
Maybe I was lucky that I worked for companies that did have a proper business strategy, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there were some things that we needed to clarify in the strategy. So, for example, to give you an example, for within my previous company, and we stated things like we want to have a high performing organization, but there was no definition around what that meant. So I think it's really important that if you have a strategy, that you really make clear what you want to achieve. So because that makes it easier for example, HR to create a strategy that is aligned to the business strategy. So and although there is my experience is that I was lucky that there was a business strategy, but what my added value was that we will bring more clarity around the definition. So what do we mean with this? Because in the end, then you also know better where you need to work towards too. So and from that you can build your people strategy, but you can't build a people strategy without a business strategy. So if you are now an HR director and the business is asking you to create a people strategy, and in your view, the business strategy is not clear enough, then that's where you need to start. So don't start building the people strategy, but make sure that the business strategy is clear, clear to you, clear to the management team, and clear to the people that are working in your company. And from that, if that's the case, then you can actually build your people strategy.
Yeah. So always start with the business in mind, the business strategy, the purpose, the values. Okay, yeah, we love to hear a bit more about that also. But what I also find intriguing is that you say, okay, we have, for instance, the example of we have a performance management strategy. But what does that really mean? So to really understand the definitions behind it, what do we have the same understanding? So maybe that's also something related to people strategy and strategic workforce planning, because those two are also often mixed up.
Yeah.
But what is the difference? Because it's not the same, right?
No, there's a clear distinction. So the people strategy is your overall people and culture plan. And strategic workforce planning could be one of the HR instruments that you use to get towards your goals. But the people strategy is the whole strategy included in management and people development. So what is necessary? So it then besides strategic workforce planning, it could also have talent management, succession planning, building a culture. So strategic workforce planning is then you really focus only on analyzing and forecasting the organization's workforce. And the people strategy plan is everything that has to do with your people and culture. So
Okay,
it's
so that's can we maybe say that is more the umbrella?
yeah, the people strategy is the umbrella,
Yeah,
and strategic workforce planning is just one HR instrument.
yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you need to always have a strategic workforce planning. That depends on the company, what the company wants to achieve, the amount of change that is necessary. And because within strategic workforce planning, you look at, okay, what's the current workforce, and what are maybe new skills that we need to build or buy within the company. But that's
Mhm.
just only one part of your total workforce strategy.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So that's it's good to understand, and there's therefore it's also very important to understand also in your organization what we really mean with certain topics and what the definitions are, and to repeat it also. So yes, you can explain it once, but along the way we forget what we mean or where we are, where we stand, and to really have continuous conversations about that also probably yeah.
Maybe a good point is that I think strategic workforce planning is more a term and something you use within HR. And of course, you can run workshops with the business, like what are the future skills that we need. But a
Yeah.
people strategy is really a strategy that should be known by everyone in the company. And so, because that's also a strategy where you need employees, where you need managers, where you need HR to achieve it.
Yeah, okay, that's a good addition and to
Yeah.
remember. But now we are, of course, curious when you started your new endeavor as HR director with Logix.
Yeah.
How did you start? Because you were new in the organization. You didn't know the organization yet. Yeah, maybe a bit from the interviews.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that this was a totally different environment as what you were used to within the big corporate.
Mhm.
Um, was there, for instance, an overall business strategy you could align with? How did you start?
Yeah, so there was like I said already, a good business strategy
Yeah,
where we needed to bring to some of the topics more clarity. Yeah? Like I said, a high performing organization and what is exactly the definition of that. But maybe we can go through to the slides
yeah, for sure.
and show a little bit the steps that I took to create a people strategy. So there are 6 steps, and we don't have enough time to go through all of them. But the first step is to get a profile of the company. And so, the strategy of the company is one of those elements that you need to understand the company and also the context the company is working in. So you need to make or what I did was an internal and an external assessment of the company. And maybe we can start there, Alice, with the next slides.
Yeah, and,
Okay.
I got a question from Florenta. how can organizations ensure alignment between their people strategy and overall business objectives?
Yeah.
So I think this is also the topic we are now diving into, right?
Yes.
Good.
So these 6 steps will help you to align the people strategy to your organizational strategy. And then, like I said, you always start with the business strategy in the company. So to make a profile of the company, and in this case, an internal profile, you can ask yourself these 10 questions. So, for example, when I started at Logix, I had a lot of meetings with managers, but also with employees, with the HR team. And during those one-on-one with the managers, I was already asking these kind of questions. So, and what does the company do? What's the purpose of the company? What kind of culture do you have? What is the strategy? And is there internal pressure to change? And maybe there's a new private equity firm in your company, or you have a lot of competitors that you need and that you need to change. That's more the external pressure, though. And so, is there internal pressure to change? Which stakeholders determine the strategy? So these are all questions that you can ask, and then when you start your people strategy, which you can ask your managers to get a better understanding of what is the internal profile of the company that I'm working for. But besides the internal, it's also important to understand the external. And so, what are the mega trends? And the mega trends, for example, the speed of technology, or scarcity of certain resources. And if you're maybe in a company that uses a lot of wood or water or microchips or whatever, and so it's important to understand, okay, what is happening outside of the company? What are the HR trends? What are the developments in the market for this particular company? What's the competitive strategy, but also what's the external pressure? And sometimes there's a lot of new legislation, and you need to comply to that. So before you start the people strategy, and I think this is also one of the key takeaways I would like to give to you. And so sometimes when you start, they already have a certain people plan. That also happened within Logix, and they would love for you just to start executing the people strategy. But my advice to you is take the first, let's say, 90, 100 days to really understand the business, because afterwards that will make your life far more easier to be able to execute and to focus also on those things that have most impact in achieving the business results.
Yeah, because this takes quite some time, right? To really get a good view and insight into your business strategy, what you are aiming for, but also what is the pressure from outside market. And so as an HR leader, you also need to be strong and strong enough to not feel the pressure from the organization, but the pressure is always there, but to really take the rest and the time to dive into this. And so you can also benefit from that later on if you have a good people strategy.
Yeah, and to give you an idea, I think it took me 2.5 months in Corona time to come up with the people strategy. So it doesn't have to take too much time, and because it's normal when you start that you get to know everybody. So and you don't have to tell them, I'm going to ask you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. You're just going to sit down and say, hey, how's the business doing? What are the developments in the markets? So it can be just a regular get to know each other. And in the meantime, you get a lot of information from them. And you can already start building the strategy, even without them knowing that you're asking all of these questions.
Yeah, and I can also imagine that the moment you start this way, that you also get buy-in from all the stakeholders in your organization, so that it's not a siloed approach.
No, for sure. So, and but to be honest, my experience is if you do a good assessment of the business and you translate that, and I think we will show later on how you can do that into a people strategy where it makes sense why you've chosen those HR instruments or steps. That is, to me, it was quite easy to kind of sell it to them because it all made sense, and you could really show like, okay, we are making these steps because it's going to contribute to this and this and this. And of course, when I had my draft strategy plan, I sat down with the CEO, with my peers. But to be honest, yeah, it all made sense to them. So it was, it didn't take too much time.
Okay, oh, good to hear. And how did you continue?
Yeah, so maybe we can then go to the next slide, Lisa. Because now you have a good overview of the business strategy. And if you have a good overview of the business strategy, you go into the human capability. And maybe you recognize those 3 questions from Dave Ulrich. He's also using this, or I'm using this from him.
Yeah.
And there are 3 main questions. Quite simple questions, but not always easy to answer. So to achieve our strategy, the first question is, do we have the right talent? Do we have the right skills to be able to achieve our strategy? Do we have the right leadership? And so are our leaders capable of bringing talent and organization together? And the third question is, do we have the right organization? I think there your company also really helps, Lisa, and to make it an adaptable, agile organization to be able to and to achieve those goals. So those are the 3 main questions that you should ask yourself. And then, of course, you also have the human resources team. But that's more an internal question for the HR director or the chief HR officer. So do I have the right team and the right skills capabilities to be able to execute on the people strategy? But I think for now we can focus on those 3 elements. So do we have the right talent? Do we have the right leaders? Do we have the right organization?
Yeah, and yes, we focus on that now, but later on, it's also interesting to hear. Okay, but what if you, as an HR team, do not have the right skills yet or capabilities? What to do then? What is the impact for HR itself? But let's first dive into these to not make it too complicated.
Yeah.
Shall I continue with?
So, and maybe when people see the next slide, they think, "Oh, this is a lot." But once you work with this, it is quite easy, and it's a great framework that can really help you in building your people strategy. So under talent, and so there are 10 S's. Maybe you know the McKinsey 7S model, and there are 3 S's added to this model. And what you're going to assess, and you can already do that when you speak to the managers, is, for example, within talent, so the staff. So within Logix at that moment, we had 280 people. They had an average age of 28, and they have these and these skills. And we knew that in the business strategy, we want to grow the business towards 500 people. And so what you're going to do here is that you assess, you make an analysis on the gaps. So what is the current situation on all these 10 S's? So what's the current situation around staff, spirit, and is there an engaged people workforce, or maybe in some areas less engaged? So what is the current management style? And so how are they senior leaders, or are they leaders that are first-time managers? That was also the case within my previous company. A lot of young people that grow into a manager role, and so what does the company, what the kind of leadership does the company need in 3 years' time? You also make that assessment around the organization. Why? Just to give you an example on the services. So your company today offer certain services or maybe products. And it's really important for you to know if in 3 years' time, the company maybe will add certain services or products to their current services or products. And is that going to change? Are you adding new products to your business? Or are you going to minimize that? Because and if you're adding new products or new services, maybe that also has influence on the skills that you need in the future. And so around all of these 10 S's, you make a gap analysis. So what is the current asset situation, and what is the current and what is the to be situation? So what is our ambition?
Yeah, and you do that for all the part. So first related to the organization, and then related to, okay, what do we then need to do, or can we do take on in our people strategy?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay. All right.
So and then you're going to look at, so what's the added value of HR? And so because in the end, when you do your assessment around the to be and the S's, you know of each of those 10 S's what the critical success factor is. So what's the success factor? And because you can't do everything, so you really need to focus. So what is the one critical success factor that will bring us to the success in the future? As an HR, probably your impact is not the highest on systems, because that's really probably an IT or a tech area, or on services and products, and that's probably the chief product officer or the CCO and the sales. But there are some of those S's where I truly believe HR can have most impact to achieve those, in the end, the business strategy. So to give you an example, skills, staff, and the spirit, the engagement, the management style, those are the critical success factors that are the ones where HR can have most impact. So if you know which of those are, and so in this case, let's say staff, skills, spirit, style, and probably shared values, because that's the culture, then you also know, okay, there are 5 critical success factors where we as HR need to create a people strategy around, because we know that if we achieve those 5 critical success factors, we are successful from that angle towards achieving our business goals. So let me pause here for a moment, because I do realize that it can be at first a lot of information. Any questions maybe from your side, Alice, or?
Yeah, and I think also for and we will share an example after this. But I think it depends also in how where your organization is. So if you, one of the S's is structure, and maybe that's also aligned with operating model. So if you are, what I see from my experience in when an organization is aiming for new ways of working, then that doesn't always mean that you need to restructure your organization, but often this is the case. So what we then see is that from an HR perspective and department, you can really contribute to that transformation and that change. And that's not always the case, because an organization, if if an organization is not that far in having a good people strategy and alignment, because that's mostly the case. There is a people strategy, there is a business strategy, but not always very closely aligned. But then sometimes organizations see HR really as an administrative function. But HR can really add a lot of value in these kind of strategic topics related to, okay, what is our purpose? What are we aiming for? What are our values? What kind of culture do we want in our organization? What behaviors are then related to that? And extremely, especially on these topics, HR can deliver a lot of value.
Yeah, so, and I think this is a great example. So in if in the structure, and because for the structure you're also assessing the as is and the to be. Let's say the as is, we're working in a more traditional hierarchical way.
Mm-hmm.
But our to be situation is that we want to work in an agile way. So that's your critical success factor, making sure that the company is able to work in an agile way. To do that, and you know that very well, Elisa, is that means something for the leaders. And so they need to adapt a new management style. So you know that the current as is that you have managers that manage in a traditional way. But your to be situation on the management style, and so the S of the style of management, is that you need to create agile leaders. So leading in a different way. So that means that in your people strategy, you need to have a stream about leadership and leadership development. So, what are the steps that you need to take in the coming, let's say, 3 years to make sure that the leaders who are currently more traditional leaders, to move them towards or help them to develop themselves in agile leaders? And so, although your direct influence as HR is not on the structure, because that's probably organizational design or maybe the C-suite itself, and like within ING, what really the CEO of the Netherlands who was driving the structure.
Mm-hmm.
But your influence and your impact as an HR is really, really crucial, and that's on the leadership part or on the skills part, and so that people are able to work in an agile environment. And that is where you make the difference. And if you show that, and coming back to your question, how difficult is it to sell it to the business? If you can show that there is alignment towards achieving the same goal, but we do that from a people perspective, it makes sense to them. And it's really easy to, not even convince them, but just to have a conversation like this. Yes, we do need to invest in our management and we do need to invest in our people, because otherwise we'll not be able to become an agile and adaptable organization.
Yeah, and therefore it's also crucial to really have those conversations and the alignment, and so also to refresh that every time again. And I think Leonie is now frozen in the screen.
Yeah, you as well. You look better than I do, Elisa.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure how this is in on LinkedIn, but we in StreamYard, where we work with, we see a frozen screen.
Yeah.
But I think what is great to show then is your example where you worked with, to really see, because you cannot jump from one to the other. So you have a current state, and after the current state, you are not able to reach your purpose or what you are aiming for in your strategy just in 1 year or in half a year. So you had a great example, and I will show that on screen for a moment. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not sure if everyone can see this, but this is really an example of the people strategy from 2024 till 2026. So maybe Leonie, you like to elaborate on this?
But the thing is, I can't see the slides, so it's probably something on my side. I don't know if anything I can do to refresh or but I know how the slide looks like.
Yeah.
So hopefully the rest of the audience can see the slide. And like you said, there is a current state, and that is the S is what I was talking about. So to give you an example of a company, and within that company, HR was really still reactive. And so I'm looking at the bottom two blocks because that is HR. We didn't have any data, so and there were minimal HR tools and processes. So that was our as is current state. But
Yeah, and now we lost Leonie. She's coming back.
oh,
Maybe you go shortly out, Leonie, because otherwise you still have the problem. And I think she did. And then I elaborate a bit on this slide. What you see in the screen is an example of a people strategy, which Leonie created and worked on already for a bit. And it's an example because every organization has a different reality. So it's not copy paste. What we always say also in transformations, in change, but also if you do not have a kind of transformation or change, your organization is unique. So your business strategy and your people strategy is also unique. You, what Leonie already stated, you start with creating an overview of what is your business and what are you aiming for. Then, based on that, you go back to the current reality and start to create your gap analysis. And based on that gap analysis, you create your people strategy. And what she did is really have a look at, okay, what do we want to achieve in 2024? What do we want to achieve in 2025 and what in 2026? And I got a message from Leonie that she really needs to restart. So I think she has a block in or a bug in her laptop. So let's see how we can bring her in again. But what you also see in her example is in 2024, her objective is, or for the company, the objective is move to the learning culture. And the objective for 2025 is creating an inspiring environment. And then for 2026, they want to achieve a high performance culture. So here you see the different stages in the people strategy, what they are aiming for. I'm not sure if there's anyone who has a question around it. Well, hopefully Leonie will achieve to come in again. What you also see in this example, and what is also of importance in your organization, and that was also for me a question to Leonie, and we can ask her later on if she joins us again. But you see underneath two lines, in light blue. And that's really the part of HR, because what I noticed from my own experience is that you can aim for a huge objective in your people strategy to help the organization further, the people in the organization. But on the other hand, as an HR department, you also need to be capable to do so. So sometimes, for instance, if you are aiming for new ways of working, then also as an HR department and the people in HR, you need to understand what that kind of way of working is, and also try to understand how you can help then the organization further and the people in it. So when I started in my first transformation journey, and I will remove this slide now. So when I started in my as part of a transformation team in the Agile transformation, we announced a real big change as part of the business strategy. And I had a background in HR. So we were also supporting the organization to realize that change. And I see that Leonie is back. And yes, here she is again. And now maybe only
Unmute.
I was just explaining, welcome back, Leonie.
Thank you.
I was just explaining the start and the importance of HR to really understand how to help the people in the organization further. So I explained how we started with a transformation team. I was part of the transformation team when we started the transformation in the Netherlands. It was within ING. And after the first announcement, we got a lot of questions from employees in the organization. And also they said, do you really know what Agile means? So, and to be honest, that moment, I was not sure if I understood that. But if you do not understand what you are aiming for in the business and also the way of working, agility, what is agility? There we come back to the definitions. Agile, what is agile? Also a definition. So also from HR perspective, the light blue lines in your slide example, people strategy, it's very important from an HR perspective to understand what you are aiming for to be able to help build the capabilities in your organization.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know, and if we can show the slide, but there are, and in the hopefully you remember in the human capability slide, and there were 4 kind of streams. One was on talent, one was on leadership, one was on organization. And you see those colors back. So the top 3 in the current state are around talent. The one there on the one under that one, or the green one, is the one that is connected to style, to management style. And so, for example, in this case, the company had differences in leadership skills. So there were people that didn't really have a lot of management experience, management skills, and there were also some senior leaders. So there were differences in the maturity of the leadership skills. The next one is the one that is connected to organization. And that is the S of the shared values. So in this particular case, there was not really a clear definition of what is our culture, what are our building behaviors, how do we work together. So that's the current state, and not having full clarity around who we are and how we work together. The bottom 2, that's more the internal part. So that's the HR part, where you also ask Elise at the start, like, okay, is HR capable of executing the people strategy, of course, together with the business? So, and in this case, yeah, HR was still a lot of doing a lot of manual work, no data. So that was the current state. So if you then talk in your strategy about high performing culture, you know that you need to take some steps to come from the current state to a high performing culture. And you have we had a definition of what that high performing culture was. So, and here you can see that you know of here you see the steps that we took to achieve in the end the strategy. And in this case, it's just an example and an example for the coming 3 years. But you know that for 2024, and you need to move from minimal HR tool and processes to implementing a system so that you have data and that you have clear processes, either around recruitment or operations or all of that. But we also saw that it was necessary for HR not to be reactive, but to become an advisor. And it was the gap was too big to immediately become a business partner, but first really being an advisor. That was step one. And here you can see all the steps that you can take, which are also achievable. And then if I come back to where I said it's really important that you focus. And so these are the core things, the business together with HR, what they need to do on people and culture to be able to achieve the business strategy. But of course, as you also know, it is possible that something new pops up. And maybe a huge integration with another company or something else. But then it's really important that you say, okay, is that particular task, project, is that more important than one of the other things that we're currently working on? Because you can't add constantly new work towards this. And so then you need to say, okay, yes, we can take on this particular huge project, but then we take a pause on something else. And so it also helps you towards the business to say no or not yet.
Yeah, and that even makes it more important to continuously check progress, check what's going on, and to reprioritize together with the board and everyone, all your stakeholders. How did you do that? Because I see we only have 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
And I have two things that I really want to ask you, because one of them is, you already mentioned a bit, you have to measure that you are successful, how you do that. Yeah. And the other thing is, did you had a kind of iterative approach?
Yes, both on both questions I can say yes. Maybe you can show the last slide, Alize. Because the previous slide showed the people strategy of the coming 3 years. But for 2024, of course, it's important to focus on 2024. So this is an example of the people strategy and the projects you're going to do for 2024. And what we've done is that this is the year plan, and of course there's a lot of run activities, as we call that, so just business as usual that you need to do during the year as well. But you could say these are more the change projects. And from that year plan, we would go to a quarterly plan. And so we would have a plan from January to March. And that quarterly plan we would bring back to 2-week sprints. So that's something you probably recognize from Agile. So every week we would sit down and we say, okay, so what are for the coming 2 weeks, the most important milestones? And then by the end of the quarter, we would look at, okay, so did we achieve what we wanted to achieve? Are we somewhere lacking behind, or were there some changes? And what can we achieve in the next 3 years, next 3 months? So that really kept us on track. It helped us to focus, and we could also measure if we were on the right track. So we knew like, okay, are we lagging behind or not? What are the things that we need to do to speed up? Do we need more help maybe from the business or other stakeholders? So that's how we tracked our implementation of this 3 year, bringing back to one, bringing back to a quarter, bringing back to 2 weeks.
Yeah, and did you then also during or at the end of that quarter, you reviewed with the HR department?
Yeah.
But that's then also a moment, I think, what we do also in transformations and with business, we have quarterly business reviews, or some organizations call that PI planning or whatever, but that you have a moment during that quarter that you can align with each other and align with business, what is going on and how to adjust your goals for the next 3 months?
Yeah, so we had, of course, regular conversations with the CEO. I was part of the executive committee as well. I would say it's not necessarily to check in each quarter, but I would do that on a regular basis. I did that more often than each quarter. And also to understand, okay, and are we on track? Is there anything that we need to adjust? Yes or no? But yeah, once again, to be honest, if you use a framework like this or a structure like this, it's also very easy to measure and to sit down with the business, because the business was also, of course, aware of the people strategy and they were behind it. And you can't execute a people strategy without the business. And it's not a strategy of HR, it's a people culture strategy of everyone in the company. And so, yeah, of course, they're fully aligned and also involved in this. Only the bottom part is just for HR. All the other stuff is for everyone in the company.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, that's good to really repeat the involvement of everyone in the organization. And I think an important part is that people strategy is not only from HR. Like what we also say, employee experience is not only from HR, it's from the entire organization.
Yeah.
And only together you can make it successful. Just shortly, what kind of data did you use? What are good data to measure?
Yeah, we used a lot of data overall. So like I said, when I started, it's a data-driven company, but we didn't really had a lot of data within HR. So that's why we implemented the HR system. But to be honest, we also tracked a lot of data manually. And so, for example, around learning and development or recruitment, so the whole employee cycle, so from search, recruitment, onboarding, for the whole employee cycle, we had data that we tracked. And so it was not necessarily data exactly like, hey, are we on track with this particular project? Because that's already something that we did in the sprints and the quarterly reviews. But we did use a lot of data to steer if that was necessary, but also to involve managers and to help them and to know if we did a good job on onboarding or on hiring, etc. So we used a lot of data to track how well we were doing.
Yeah. Important to.
And I think that's also one of the key takeaways, that data becomes more and more important. So it's really crucial as an HR department that you really focus on that. And for example, last week I was at an HR AI conference, and an AI is data plus algorithms. So if you have good data, a lot of data, yeah, you can do so much with if you add algorithms to it, and really use AI as a tool for a lot of people and culture elements. So yeah, if there's one thing, yeah, make sure your data is qualitative good data. Yeah.
Well, I think that's then a great advice, last advice to everyone here in the room, because it's almost 1 o'clock. So it's went very fast, the hour. Maybe also a bit that we had some connection problems, but yeah, hey, that's live in the live sessions. And
that is being adaptable in real time, Lisa. So
of
yeah.
course, always, and that's how it is. And
Yeah.
I'm happy you were able to join us again
Me too.
and to share so much insights. And I think about the data, we can also talk about it for an hour. So I really want to thank you for being here, Leonie, and to sharing your experience and the importance of the alignment. Having a people strategy is one, aligning it also with the business strategy. That's really important. And also taking the time to create a qualitative, good people strategy. Because you can have a people strategy, but what is the quality of it? If people have questions, where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. Just search for my name, Leonie Lubbers. I'm more than happy to connect and to see where I can help. I also have the website befutureready.nl. So there's also where they can find me. And yeah, I'm always happy to connect, also to learn myself. So I think for me, learning is living, living is learning. So let's share the knowledge, and yeah, and hopefully people enjoyed it, got some new insights, and maybe we see each other soon.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who joined us today in this Business Agility Boost. Let us know how you experienced it. If you have questions, please reach out. And if you have suggestions for new topics for next Business Agility Boost, we organize every 2 weeks a Business Agility Boost. So let us know what you'd like to know more about. And for everyone who joined us today or watched this in the replay, we have also a special offer for you. And that means that if you want to know more about how to align people to purpose, build your company strategy and align the strategy, your people strategy to it, then go to Twingster Academy, where you find a special offer only for this weekend. So today until Sunday. Thank you everyone who was here, and I wish you a great day and a great weekend.